Fox 40 News at 9.
Well, the city of trees, that's Sacramento, could also be called the city of leaves this time of year. The city collects, have you heard this number yet this morning? Up to 170 tons of leaves every day this time. I thought you were thought I was going to say every year, every day this time of year. From there, they get loaded onto big rigs and they make a 25-mile trip north to a composting site for recycling.
It's all organic material. It's in Sacramento. It's extremely clean and really good and readily available at this time of year.
Yeah, the leaves end up getting used to make landscaping or gardening materials, so we make good use of them. And of course, some of them end up clogging our drains around here, and we end up with flooding when Darren gives us all this rain.
Guys, we were talking so much about street flooding, and we were doing such a great job of pointing out where the trouble spots are. That's one form of flooding, and a lot of times you hear urban, flood watch for something like that. But just a general flood watch, which is what we have now, can apply to some of the lower-lying creeks and streams that go through town. Let me give you a close-up view here. We're going to leave behind the wide view from Sacramento, and we're going to come in a little closer still and get into Arden Creek, which sits just down to the south here on Arden Creek, just down to the south of American River College. One more zoom in as we go past the parking lot from American River College, and we're going to get back down into Arden Creek. That's where the flood control district has a gauge that they watch, and I'm going to show you a picture of a creek running through the stream bed. That's that same stream that runs right by the parking lot at American River College. You see the top where it says just near the bottom of the bridge, 72.4 elevation? That's just about 9 feet higher than the bottom of the channel, which sits at 63 feet. In other words, you'd have to rise 9 feet of water to get to the bottom of that bridge. Well, that's already happened. So let me give you a point of reference on this. That stream right now is already flowing to the bottom of that bridge. It's risen 9 feet. And for perspective, I've got Julian standing on a ladder here right next to me. She's got this tape measure going all the way down to the ground where I'm standing. I'm barely 5'8". So this is what 9 feet of water looks like. And that's how much has already filled that creek. We had Elisa Becerra standing in that creek bed 2 days ago at the bottom. She barely got her boots muddy. There was no water in it. We've already had enough rain to fill that thing from the bottom of the channel to the bottom of the bridge. If it goes a little higher, it starts flowing over that bridge. It does that quite often when this is one of the trouble spots we always check in on, and there will be water flowing over that bridge by the time we get to Sunday.
We're following breaking news out of Marysville this morning. The roadway on Highway 70 between Woodruff Lane and Ramirez is blocked off completely, both directions, following a major collision there. A tanker carrying 8,000 gallons of ethanol smacked into a pickup truck and overturned into a ditch on the side of the road. The driver of that truck was taken to the hospital for minor injuries. The tanker, still on its side, is waiting for another tanker to transport that ethanol. The process of siphoning the gas to another tanker may take hours.
9:31 in other news this morning. Police say a Facebook post ended with the arrest of an El Camino High School student.
That's right. Elisa Becerra is live outside the high school to tell us what happened.
Yeah, actually, students came this morning and went to school as normal, but they all knew that something had happened over the weekend, and that is that a 17-year-old fellow student posted threats on Facebook that he would come to the school today and start shooting. Now, police said that this stems from a fight earlier in the week on campus where this student was suspended. They went to his home. They arrested him and charged him with one felony count of a terrorist threat. They didn't find anything to substantiate the threat. There were no weapons, etc. This is what some of those students who came to school had to say this morning about it.
I saw what he had posted about, and I wasn't really too worried about it. I mean, it was a little like, man, who would do that? But at the same time, it's like I have a lot of tests to do and get ready for studying, so I just wanted to focus on that.
And rightly, he should be able to focus on that. That's why you come to school. Student officials, or school officials rather, say that they were on it right away. This is what they had to say about that.
It's really crazy to think that, somebody just gets mad and they make that kind of threat, and especially so publicly. It's just sad that that's where people go right away, and it's sad that we have to be so vigilant and that we have to react so strongly, but we're going to react strongly when our student safety is involved.
Yeah, and again, most of the students that we spoke with this morning thought that the student was just letting off steam, that he wasn't really serious. But again, the school says they have to take this very seriously and act accordingly. As we've seen in other parts of the country, this whole situation turn out differently. So a very safe day here. A lot of sheriff's deputies on hand today. Their presence very known and very welcome by the students. Back to you.
Thank you, Elisa. 9:33. A couple is under arrest after officers say they tried to break into a credit union office in North Highlands.
Eric Rucker tells us why one family member says it was all just a misunderstanding.
And this all happened Sunday morning at the Safe Credit Union here in North Highlands when family and police tell us a couple of people walked inside and didn't really make a whole lot of sense, kind of sounding delusional as they were inside. The place had to be shut down. Now, we talked to the mom of the male suspect in this, Cody Muscarello, basically said that her son and her son's girlfriend, Angel Gonzalez, were on meth at the time, and it was a very, very odd set of circumstances.
Yeah, I was worried, but there wasn't anything I could do about it. I know you watch enough of the SWAT and the cop movies, you know that they have to go in there and think they have something.
So while that mother was outside on her phone talking to those inside, she was also able to hand that phone off to SWAT officers who were then able to try to do the same. But when that didn't work, they just eventually broke inside and got those two. They are now being charged with conspiracy, resisting arrest, and being under the influence while they were inside this credit union.
In other news this morning, with schools closing throughout the region, parents have reason to be concerned. The Sacramento Bee reports that more than a dozen school districts are seeing double-digit declines in enrollment. Smaller rural districts are among the hardest hit. Forest Hill Union near Auburn saw a 31% decrease in 6 years. Placerville area's Mother Lode Union District lost 25% in the same time span. And a series of spending cuts will hit hard and soon. And members of Congress are getting caught in the crossfire of a heated blame game. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi says the sequester will devastate families across California, including thousands of children who will not benefit from early education through Head Start.
When those kids can't go to Head Start, they'll be home. Their moms will not be able to go to work. Think of what that does to the family.
Families can also expect student loan cuts and cuts in unemployment benefits. But the jabs and the blame game continue.
Instead of campaigning for higher taxes, the president should lead an effort to begin addressing our nation's spending problem.
President Barack Obama seemed hopeful in his weekly address yesterday, saying there's a caucus of common sense out there, and he will continue to seek out those leaders from both parties. Well, former NBA star Dennis Rodman is trying to kickstart peace talks between the U.S. and North Korea. He's just returned from a trip to North Korea where he met with that country's dictator, Kim Jong-un.
He said, if you can, Dennis, I don't want to do war. I don't want to do war. He said that to me.
Did you say, why don't you pick up the phone and call President Obama?
No, you know, it's a different story. It's a different story because guess what? The kid's only 20 years old.
Rodman says if President Obama called Kim Jong-un, the two will make peace. He called Kim a, quote, friend for life. Well, there was a nasty crash in West Sacramento earlier this morning, and it killed a utility worker. That accident happened after a PG&E truck drove right into a traffic light before 1 o'clock this morning on Washington Boulevard and Southport Parkway. Investigators are asking drivers to avoid the area during their morning commutes.
We're requesting that citizens in the community avoid this intersection. The light pole at this point has been deemed to be unstable, so we have personnel on scene dealing with that issue, and it will be getting replaced, but we foresee that this intersection will be impacted for much of the day.
Yeah, and investigators are still looking into the cause of that crash.
Well,